Hey everyone, good Tuesday evening. Welcome to another episode of Bowling with the Fef, a platform for you to share your unique bowling story live on our YouTube channel. Really excited to have our guest on tonight. We've been kind of working through some scheduling stuff over the last few months, but he's here. He is pumped up and can't wait to get into his bowling story in just a moment here. So certainly looking forward to all that. If you're watching us live, remember we've got a live chat going on that you can feel free to drop your opinions in. If you're watching on replay, feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions or just want to sound off about the show, and I will do my best to answer those questions and get back to you in a timely fashion. And either way, I really appreciate your support of this channel. Well, let's talk about some golden doubles teams in the Pan Am Bowling Champion of Champions event in Rio de Janeiro. The USBC reports that Chris Prather and episode 5 guest AJ Johnson took doubles gold today, and Shannon O'Keefe posted on her Facebook page that she and Brianna Cote also took home gold in the women's doubles competition. So congratulations to excellent teams, both with some history on this show, and proud to spread the word that Team USA is making some noise down in South America. So one thing I do want to call your attention to that isn't happening until January, but still pretty exciting. And that's the fact that we are going to have some live NCAA women's bowling action on the channel once again in 2023. I'll be returning to Waterloo, Iowa for the 2023 Peacock Classic and providing live streaming for all 3 days of competition. You may remember Valparaiso University won the inaugural event this past January after a back and forth championship match with Marion. That video still lives on the channel, so feel free and head back and relive that excitement from Waterloo. The 2023 event is January 20th through the 23rd at Cadillac XBC, the same center that we were at last year. More details on this to come as we go, but a big thank you and a big shout to University of Upper Iowa head coach Nicole DePaul and Upper Iowa University for bringing me back for another go at live streaming in the college space, the college bowling space. I'm really excited to get back there and live stream that event. Derek Michaud joining us today. Hey, buddy, and wants to know if the Peacock Classic is on NBC. I suppose that there's still time for NBC to get into that. I'm sure the folks at Upper Iowa would not turn them away. But for now, I know that I'll be there. So you can certainly catch all the action on the Bowling with the Fef channel. So I also want to mention Chip Magnet. Chip Magnet Salsa is a local company, local to me anyway, based in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, sending out fine salsa products to 38 states, grocery stores in 38 states and Canada. If you're in the Des Moines area, you can find it at Hy-Vee and Whole Foods, and anybody can go to chipmagnetsalsa.com to put in their order for what is really some of the finest salsa you will ever taste. Chip Magnet Salsa, raise your snack standards, and thank you, Chip Magnet, for your support of Bowling with the Fef. Jerry Mars chiming in. Good evening, Fef. And Tom, when you get there, good evening to you, Jerry. I know he's excited to see this episode just like I am. He told me so before we went on. So let's not delay any further. our guest tonight was ready for the PBA 50 tour before it was ready for him. He had to wait through a COVID-related cancellation of the tour in 2020, but he made his new rookie season of 2021 count. He had winning ways that landed him Rookie of the Year and Player of the Year in that same season. So some high honors at season's end. So let's bring him out. He is Tom Hess of Granger, Iowa. And Tom is joining us on what he describes as a beautiful Iowa evening from his backyard. Thanks for joining us, Tom.
You're welcome, Pef. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
And shout out to Lenny. Thanks, Lenny, for Lenny Borsch for putting out the challenge.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, that was the first thing I was going to mention. We can kind of look back on how we got here with Lenny's challenge.
I think he has a lot to talk about. This past year, he's had a phenomenal year. We room together quite a bit, and I think he would be a really good guy to talk to on your show.
Yeah. So you two were roommates, as he said, and another fierce competitor on the PBA 50. That's for sure.
You think Lenny went out and won the Senior U.S. Open this year? Gosh, what did he make? 5 or 6 shows? He almost won the Super Senior Classic. Lenny is always battling for the lead, always at the top, and proud to call him a friend.
Yeah, for sure. No, glad he made the challenge, and certainly glad to have you here today. So, I'm making my way through the day, right? And, the promo's up. And one of our past guests, Brent Prentice, who was on episode 26, sent me a picture, and I wanted to show it to you. He said that they have basically built the road for you already. He's in northwestern Wisconsin, about I want to say an hour and a half north of where I am. Minnesota born and raised, but he vacations in the cabin in northwestern Wisconsin. He said got his road built, and now he just has to build the cabin next to me. We need more Toms in the world. And of course, if you can't make it out, he's sitting there on Hess Road.
Yep, I can see that. It's funny, Brent. What a good guy. Brent and I go back many years. Of course, he owns Cedar Vale Lanes, up in the Minneapolis area. And if he's watching, he sent me a text when I won in Colorado this year. And I don't know if it's true or not, but he said he ran that last shot out and fell out of the boat, is what he said. He was out fishing and watching on his phone and ran it out and fell out of the boat.
Wow. Yeah, and I could see him doing something like that. That's kind of his style. Jonathan NG joining us. Hello, Fef. Thank you for joining us tonight. Another thing that I wanted to ask you about was a social post that came up earlier in the week. You basically said that, and not in these words, that you have a lengthy plane ride in your future. You posted to social that you're going to be heading to Denmark to participate in a tournament and a coaching clinic with another USBC Masters champion, Thomas Larson. Me being me, I had to, reach out and, do a little message exchange with Thomas, who I've never met before, but says he knows of the show and likes it. So that's good. But he told me
maybe I just got a new call out.
There you go. He said this will be his first experience with you as a coach, but he knows that you are very well liked at Pro-Ams and that you want to help everyone as much as you can. He said he knows that you're good at simplifying bowling, and that makes it easy to explain to others and easy to make good decisions. So he believes that you will be able to give very good advice and help all the players at the clinic a lot. Do you do the coaching thing often?
I don't. It's something that I need to do better at. I do have a couple of events coming up so let's go. I'm leaving tomorrow. I get on the plane tomorrow to fly to Odense, Denmark. Soren reached out and wanted somebody to come over from the States. I'm going over to bowl the Odense International. It's the 10th anniversary of their tournament. So super excited to go over there and bowl, and they're putting something together. It just so happens, Thomas Larson is from Denmark, and, two Masters champions to put together a little clinic on Friday. And, I'm going to try to share my knowledge as much as I can. I don't consider myself a coach, Pfeff. You know what I mean? I can help people out with ball motion, stand here, do this, do that. I'm not a big physical game. I can't even help my daughter with her physical game. I can tell her what ball to throw, and after this weekend, she'll probably never listen to me again because I was suggesting one, Matt Gasson suggested another. She went with the one that Matt suggested and bowled fantastic and just missed the cut this weekend, grabbing she did at the 11th frame. There's 4 spots that they pay that don't make the finals, and she did get one of those. But
Okay.
But no, I'm really looking forward to getting on that plane tomorrow and getting over to Odense. And after that, I'm going to stay there another week, and I'm going to head up to Helsingborg, Sweden, and I'm going to bowl the Lucky Larson as well. So
Oh, wow.
going to spend about 10 days over in Europe, then come back. And as soon as I get back, we're heading right down to the Lake of the Ozarks for a regional down there. And that's where my next clinic is. Parker Bone and I are going to join up and do a clinic after the regional down in Lake of the Ozarks.
Wow. So you've got a busy couple weeks coming up. I also asked Thomas about that tournament since I hadn't heard of it before, and what you're going to be up against when you're competing there. He said that the tournament itself is generally featuring some pretty challenging conditions, so it'll certainly be a challenge for you and for the rest of us. He'll be competing too. He said for a small tournament, the field is fairly strong with some of the best bowlers from Denmark, Sweden, Germany, and in the Netherlands there. So, I mean, you're no stranger to tough conditions. So I guess, and you've bowled internationally too. So how do you prepare yourself for an event, such as this one?
I really don't prepare differently for any event. If you want to know the truth, I bowl a lot. Obviously, just coming off the tour, just went and bowled on. The scores were a little higher this weekend than I had imagined, but not insane. You know what I mean? It only took 52 over to make the cut this weekend. So that they were pretty tough. The guys that got matched up, just like in any event, when the guys get matched up, somebody's always going to hit whatever they put out. To be honest with you, what I struggle with the most in these in the events that when you go to Europe is the format, where you're bowling 6 games, and then the top, I believe in Odense, the top 24 scores are going to make the finals. So you kind of know, right when you hit the lanes, you know what I mean? It's not like you got here, like for example, on the PBA50 Tour, we bowl 14 qualifying games. So, you know what I mean? If you get out to a little bit of an early struggle for the first 3 games, you still got 11 to get it figured out. And what I struggle with over there is staying patient enough, to let the lanes kind of come to you or whatever. I always want to get out and get to that. It always feels good when you get out there and, bowl that big 220, 230, 240, 250 the first game so that you can kind of relax. And, I've had some times overseas where, you go out and you bowl a big one the first squad, and then the rest of the week is nice. And I've also had them times where you do the re-entry thing 6, 7 times. And I'll never, for 1 year in Germany, it was going to take about 65-ish over, and I was bowling 155 over like it was my job. It was sick. Just kept missing by 10, missing by 10, missing by 10. But one of them weeks where I bowled, I think I bowled 8 times and never was able to get over there. And then, there was 1 year where we were going from Kuwait, and we get to you get to Munich early enough, and I went on my very first squad and bowled 200 over. And then they have early entry squads, they have some guarantees. So I bowled the first squad and was in. It's just funny how that happens.
Yeah.
But this tournament's going to be good. There's Thomas is going to be there, obviously, that I know for sure. I imagine Carson Hansen will be there. Carson's a PBA champion. Mick and Tim Stamp. I'm not sure how many of the Sweden guys will come down. I don't know if Jesper will be there. I've been looking at the scores. I see Kim Ballaby has already bowled, but I don't know if like Jesper and Osku and Martin Larson and those guys will come down or not. But there's plenty of good bowlers in Europe to where, you know, it's going to be a quality field, and I'm excited that they chose me to come over and help with the 10th anniversary.
Yeah, we've certainly seen the quality of European players here in the States for many years now. And yeah, that's no surprise that it'll be a tough field out there. Derek says, what's up, Tom? Former Brunswick brand mate and current lifelong friend. He says it's great to finally meet you in 2021. Derek is from Maine. He's been on the show before.
Yep. I've met Derek. Derek might be mistaken. I think I've met him a couple of times. I met him before 2021.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He always he follows me on Facebook, of course. Always commenting. And
yeah,
Derek's a really good guy.
Yep.
Hi, Derek. How are you, bud?
And definitely passionate about the game, which is always great to see.
Absolutely.
So let's get into your bowling story. You know, you're from Iowa. You talk about Iowa a lot, like you have a lot of pride in that state in your social media posts. Have you always lived in Iowa?
Yep. I grew up in Indianola, Iowa, a little town 12 miles south of Des Moines. I'm still mad that my dad worked in the bowling alley and not at the golf course, but you know, I guess it didn't turn out all bad.
No.
So then, graduated from Indianola in 1988. I ended up meeting my wife. I moved up to Urbandale, which is a western suburb of Des Moines. We lived there for 20 years, and 3 years ago in a week, we just bought our new house and moved out here to Granger, which is basically right on the northwest corner of Des Moines.
Okay.
I moved 20 minutes from Urbandale, but as you can see, much smaller community with a pretty nice little view in the back, you know, the cornfields and the train of a little 1,500.
Well, you just cut out right at that last part after you talked about the cornfields.
Oh, I said we don't even have a little town of 1,500.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't even have a grocery store. It's awesome. So not a lot of traffic, you know, it's just our neighbors and a bunch of really good people out here.
Yeah. Small town living. Tell me about, you know, kind of the scene for someone like yourself who, you know, wanted to get started in the sport and probably I'm assuming had some kind of a junior experience there. What was it like for you to grow in bowling?
Well, you know, as I said, my dad ran the center, Little 10-laner in Indianola, and I started bowling when I was 4 or 5 years old. And of course, with my dad being there, you know, I mean, I was a bowling center rat. I was there all the time, you know, bowling. Unfortunately, when I was 9 and 10, I probably spent too much time messing around trying to figure stuff out. Another reason to kind of still be a little bit upset with my dad, when I was probably 9 or 10, I think I picked up a 9-pound house ball and threw it down the lane with no thumb, and wow, did it hook. And my dad said, yeah, that's pretty impressive. Now learn how to do it with your thumb in it.
Oh, no.
You know, so I just practiced that and learned how to do that, and that's how I learned how to hook the ball. Imagine what might have happened if I'd have just done that from there without my thumb in the ball. I might have been the one that revolutionized the game, but no, let's let Belmo do that. But you know, no. So I was always when I bowled, we didn't have a high school program back then. They had a high school tournament, and I bowled with some very good friends of mine. Sean Riley, Todd Bingaman, Brian Wolf, and Steve Crook. And we actually won the tournament. All we could do to even get the school to even put the trophy in the trophy case and recognize, because it wasn't a IHSAA supported deal. It was, you know, but you had to be from the same high school and bowl the tournament. Sure. I didn't go to college to bowl. I didn't go to college. Always been in the construction industry my whole life. So right out of high school, I started doing poured walls, you know, pouring concrete, building foundations. And big, strong guy. And at that time, who needs to go to college, man? Look at all this money I'm making working 60, 65, 70 hours a week out here in the sun, enjoying the weather and bowling on the weekends. And, just I cashed in the very first tournament I bowled as a youth. And, as an adult out of youth, I actually made the step ladder at Foul Lanes in a Mid-Iowa Bowling Association, they were called back then. And, the rest is just kind of history. Joined the PBA in 2003 after going and bowling my first event as a non-member, and cashing and making the round of 32. Back then, the first event I've bowled was at Boulevard there in Madison, and I want to say they had 152 entries. It was unbelievable. And back then they cut to the 64. They did a 64-person bracket, and I won my first match. And first time I'd ever met Dave Barris, I lost to Dave in the next round, and most of the time I lose to Dave when I bowl him still. So, it is what it is. Dave's a pretty good player.
Yeah, I've lost to him plenty, so I feel your pain on that one. We grew up doing juniors in our college years. But speaking of the Milwaukee area where Dave's from, Rocky Harrison's chiming in, says, good evening. Tom Hess loves my home pro shop bowlers headquarters in Milwaukee with Chad Kloss and John Magna. Remember, Tom, You always have a home away from home here in Milwaukee.
Yep. Chad and I bowled some events together. We've traveled together to a few events. Chad and I, the most recent event Chad and I bowled together, we had some pretty good success at out in Columbus, Ohio, a couple of years ago at Jody Boyd's Mega Buck thing. I forget what he called it, but it was a huge doubles. Chad and I finished top 8, I think, or so in the doubles. I mean, we didn't win, but it was a pretty good showing. And then I bowled with a couple other Milwaukee guys, Matt Duty and Will. Oh my goodness, Will Welch. Thank you. We bowled the team event, did pretty good in that as well. So yeah, it was a pretty good weekend hanging out with those guys.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned, kind of getting into the swing of things at the PBA level. Tell me about your thought process going into that. I mean, a lot of us who bowl with guys like that who, end up accelerating their career in bowling to the professional level don't, myself included.
Sorry about that, Pfeff. You broke up right in the middle of that. Can you start over? Sorry about that.
No problem. I said, basically, talking about your time when it came time to make the decision to take your talents to the PBA. A lot of us who competed in juniors or maybe at the college level, didn't have that kind of confidence to make that next step. Tell me about kind of your mindset in those days. What kind of convinced you that the PBA was the right direction for you in your career?
Well, this is going to sound kind of crappy. Being from Iowa, I'd always heard of Lenny. I'd always heard of Jeff. You know what I mean? I've heard of all those guys, Gus. You know what I mean? Dale Traver, Dave Traver, all them guys. But I'd never seen them bowl. You know what I mean? And so you see all the Eagles they win. You see them all the time, doing good everywhere they go, bowling, winning all the regionals and all that. And so it would have been I think it was 2003. It was 2003 when I joined, and I think I might have been right after that very first year. I decided to go take a stab at a regional. I'd never bowled a PBA event before that. I'd been out and bowled the Masters in the 90s. You know what I mean? Went out to Utah. And bowled when it was in Salt Lake City. But in 2003, I did that, and I decided, you know what? I got up there, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but these guys aren't that good. You know what I mean? They're great bowlers, but they're not that much better than me. You know what I mean? At that time.
You felt like you could compete regularly.
Absolutely. I felt like I could compete with those guys. And so I had told John Weber years before when I had seen him in Reno, I'm not going to join the PBA. You know what I mean? There's plenty of amateur stuff to bowl to make, decent money. I had some decent runs at the high roller and the mini eliminator and stuff. Won some sweepers out there, made some decent runs, made some decent money. Had the greater Iowas. I'm traveling all over the place bowling. Then I went and bowled that first one, and they were just ran different. It just felt different. You know what I mean? The whole tournament base just felt different. So I decided to join and tried to make a run at bowling lots of regionals. I just did an interview with Jeff, our buddy Jeff Richgels. I just did an interview with him this weekend. He told me not to give you all the good stuff because Jeff and I hadn't been able to catch up since my player of the year last year either. But I took a run. I never bowled in, so I joined in 2003, and then I had never really bowled a long stretch of tournaments. When they announced, I want to say was it 2005 or 6, whenever it was that they announced that the next year was going to be exempt. The first 2 stops were in Council Bluffs and Kansas City, which are both about a couple hours from my house. And so, I did the journeyman thing, man. I took Monday off, went over, bowled the PTQ in Council Bluffs, made it, drove back home, worked Tuesday, worked Wednesday morning, drove back over to Council Bluffs and night to bowl the tournament, made the finals, bowled Thursday, finished in the mid-teens, drove back home, worked, the rest of the week. Then Monday morning I got up and I drove down to Kansas City, and lo and behold, there's 57 guys for 57 spots. So they don't even have the PTQ. So I drove all the way down to Kansas City for nothing. So I practiced for about 30, 45 minutes. Then I turned around, I drove back home and worked. And, that Wednesday morning I asked Kirk, hey, can I get B squad again, please? I'm going to go home and work. I'm trying to do this as efficiently as possible. So I went home. He said, yeah, I'll do it for one more time. I can't do this. This is a PBA. This isn't, I'll do it for you one more time. So that morning I got up at 4:00 in the morning. I was working for United Rentals at the time, delivering trench boxes. Got up at 4:00 in the morning, drove up to the Minnesota-Iowa border to deliver a trench box. Drove back home, got off work, drove to Kansas City, missed by, a mark, basically 10, 12 pins, whatever it was. Drove home that night. So I up from 4:00, drove, went down there, didn't make it. So no reason to stay. So hadn't even checked into my hotel, was able to cancel it, drove back home. And that's when I talked to my wife, and I told her, I'm good enough to do this. But at the time we had 2 young kids and didn't have any money in the bank, so it wasn't like I could go out there for 2 months and not make any money. So unfortunately, that's kind of where the reality set in that I'm not going to be able to bowl. I'm just going to try to be a really good regional player. Then in the fall of 2009, gentleman from Chicago started backing me for a little while, Dave Armstrong. I'm sure everybody knows Dave. And we decided the end of the 2009-10, so the fall of 2009, spring of 2010, there was 10 events left. Dave decided to he would back me to go bowl those, which back then it worked perfect. I was delivering sod back then, so I got laid off in December, was able to collect my unemployment, and I went out and bowled. We were laid off from December to April, so it was perfect. That's when I made my very first TV show at the very first event of that swing. Drove out to Reno, had to bowl the PTQ to make it into the mixed doubles. Bowled the qualifying. Got paired with Laura Hardiman out of San Diego. We were the 8 seeds. We both finished 8th in qualifying, and then we made a run to the show. And Laura and I ended up unfortunately losing the first match on the show. And finished 5th. But then I also that week, after that was over, then I had to bowl the PTQ. They had a men's event that week there as well. I had to bowl the PTQ, made it out of the PTQ again. And this is when they were having 100 guys bowling for 6 spots. So it wasn't, they were hard to make.
Yeah.
Made it out of the PTQ, bowled really good. That was when that was the first year that they did the dual pattern events. So at the bowling stadium was a dual pattern event, and I liked the stadium. I bowled pretty good in the stadium, and of course, I made it out of the PTQ, and I finished 12th. I think it was 12th or 14th, something like that, in that event. One of those deals I'll never forget. The people that I bowled that night. I bowled Walter Ray. I bowled Pete. I mean, it was Hall of Fame row on the Friday night at the match play round. It was unbelievable. And one of the things I'll never forget, and I still tell Pete about this, the match I'm bowling Pete, I think it's like game 3 or 4 of the round. I go up and strike, and Pete goes up and goes solid 9, solid 9. I go up, go strike, and I'm thinking, I got Pete Weber beat.
Yeah.
Well, the solid 9 obviously upset Pete. He wasn't very happy. Pete never saw his ball hit the pins the rest of the game. He went up there, threw his ball, turned around, came back to the bar, turned away for his ball, went up to his next shot. I'll let you guess. Any guess when he bowled that game?
Oh gosh, I'm sure it wasn't low.
Yeah, 279. He threw it back 10. He went solid 9 sheet.
Wow.
I bowled a pretty solid 230 or 240, whatever it was. But yeah, just that's that. You know what I mean? When Pete Weber and Mark Roth are your idols, you know what I mean? And you get to bowl him and he does something like that. That's just something you'll never forget.
Yeah.
So anyway, I bowled those 10 events. We had a pretty good run. The Masters, the U.S. Open, the Players, and the World Championships were all at the end of the season. So I cashed in all 4 of those events. Of the 6 PTQs I had to bowl, I made it out of 3 and cashed in 1. And I don't, 2 of them, I don't think I got anything. And in the 10 events we made, just short of $19,000. And I thought, maybe we can do this. And then some things changed, and we weren't able to keep going. And actually, after that, Dave kind of quit sponsoring me. So, which at the time wasn't that big of a deal. I was doing okay. I was making plenty of money. And then, let's fast forward to December of 2010. As I said, so I won my first title in 2004 at the Midwest Region RPI event up at Dale's Weston Lanes up in
Weston,
yeah.
Wausau.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that got me on the RPI team in 2004. So, boy, was that quite an experience. And then I made the RPI team every year until the RPI went away. And in December of 2010, by this time, the PBA had went away from the tour trials model. And to try to drive the regional program, they made the RPI tour trials. That's how Lenny and Dave, both 2 years prior to that, got their exemption and got to bowl for a year on tour as exempt professionals at the RPI. And so in December of 2010, I finished second, and I earned my exemption to be able to bowl on tour. So went out and found a couple of friends to back me to bowl the last half of the year. There was 6 events left. Lo and behold, I go and win the Masters. So now I've got 2 years of exemption. So now we can really do this. I can quit my job. I've never been just a bowler. I've always had a job. Everything I've done, you know what I mean? Every time it's been an event, it's drive to an event, come home and work, drive to an event, come home, work, drive to an event. And then, so we got this done. We're all excited. We're making plans to quit my job and get everything together and go bowl on tour full time. And the exempt tour goes away.
Ugh.
I got to bowl no events as an exempt player. So, but ever since then, starting in the fall of 2011, after I won, I did consider myself a full-time tour player. I did bowl almost every event for about the next 7 or 8 years, but I was never only bowling. I always had a job. So I would have to go bowl 2 or 3 events, come home, work for a little bit, go bowl 2 or 3 events. You know what I mean? I always had to make it work. I was never able to just put 100% of my effort to the tour. And, I made 2 more shows. I never did win again on that tour, but only 380 people or so have ever won on that tour. So it's
Yeah.
not all bad.
I mean, you go back to, this story of being laid off and not knowing what's next to Masters champion. I mean, doesn't that kind of harken to a story that we all know that we've heard before on this show from Tom
Well,
Smollett?
mine was a little bit different. I knew what was going to happen. We got laid off every year. We
Oh,
got laid off from December to April every year. So, I mean, I was able to, it was a, I knew I was getting my job back. When Tom got laid off, he didn't know he was getting his job back. For the 10 years I delivered sod, we got laid off from, the second week of December till normally about the end of March, beginning of April every year.
gotcha.
So
When
that's
it's
what I'm saying. When that first started, when I first took that job, that was perfect. You know what I mean? And then as the schedule morphed and changed and everything, and all of a sudden now, there's more bowling going on outside of the traditional winter season, things changed. So that's why, unfortunately, I loved that job. It was a great job. The people were awesome. They worked with me, but then I got the opportunity to take another job, and so I took that, and he told me I could work work when I needed to work, and I could be gone to bowl whenever I needed it.
yeah.
So I left that, started doing that. Well, and then all of a sudden, after last year, that's gone away too. He decided you're gone too much. So it's kind of funny because my wife and I were talking about me just quitting and doing nothing but bowling for a living, and well, he made that decision for us after I got back. My wife and I were arguing. She was like, "Just quit." I'm like, "No, I don't want to. This is great. I can work and bowl. And then, I get home after winning the senior masters, and I go in. He's like, "Hey, I need somebody to focus 100% on my business, and you need to focus 100% on bowling. So, I know bowling's what you want to do. So I'm going to let you go." And I was like, "Cool, perfect."
It's been a roller coaster. Wow.
Yeah. Bowling's given me some highs and some lows, Fef.
Oh yeah, for sure. Derek wants to know, how helpful was Jack Jurek calming you down after you won the Masters in 2011? That win meant a lot to you, and it was a great moment. Going rewatching that telecast, of course, you get by prime Mika Koivunyemi and get into the championship, and Jurek is ahead of you for most of that match until the very end, and you end up winning.
Yeah, Jack. I mean, I 4-9 in the very first frame, so Jack pretty much was ahead the whole time, and I'll never forget it. I stepped up. Jack had first split in his 8th frame, so I'm sitting on the bench. Jack splits in the 8th. I've got strikes. I believe I had strikes 6 and 7. And I'm getting up, and if I strike in the 8th and 9th, I actually take the lead.
Yeah.
I threw the one in the 8th, no good at all. Never had a chance to strike, never got it there. Left 3-6, made it, go over the 9th frame. I mean, I'm done. You know what I mean? I throw the strike. I came back, and it's something that I wish I could do all the time, but I don't. We're going back to the teddy bear, grizzly bear thing to start. A lot of times, if that hadn't have been such a big stage, I think I might have got mad there. You know what I mean? God dang it, I gave that one away. But I'll never forget. I went down, I sat down in my seat, and I kind of let out a deep breath, and I said, second place at the Masters isn't all that bad.
Yeah.
And then, lo and behold, Jack goes up and opens again. And you're like, oh my goodness, here we go. Maybe this isn't over. And then he goes over in the 10th and strikes, and then 7 10s on on another good shot. So he went 2-10, 2-10, strike 7-10. And, I was able to get up there in the 10th and make the shot that I made. That shot didn't win it. I think I needed 4 on the next shot. Did Jack help? I'm not going to say that Jack helped anything. Jack's a great guy. I love Jack. Jack and I are friends. What Jack did was classy. you know, did it help? Did it help me? Did it calm me down? No. I mean, it didn't calm me down at all. I mean, he just said, hey, you haven't won. You need to throw, you calm down. You need to throw another shot. So, I mean, eventually I would have got there. Who knows? I mean, maybe they would have called the clock on me. I don't know what it would have done. There's no doubt about it that Jack Jurek is probably one of the classiest guys in our sport, and it was a classy move, and it's created a bond from Jack and I that I don't think will ever go away. And if I can't win, there's probably nobody more that I'm rooting for than Jack, who, by the way, had a pretty good year this year. He came out and bowled. Oh, he didn't bowl very many events, but he bowled 6 or 7 events, and I think he made the show half the time he bowled, which is pretty good, or maybe even more than half. It was awesome to see Jack out bowling on the senior tour again this year.
Yeah, but nevertheless, you won. I mean, there it is
Yep.
in black and white. They're all in color.
That's my favorite picture of all time, right there, man.
Yeah. I mean, we see the reaction, we see the emotion, but how did it feel? I mean, to know that you had, a major.
That's a lifelong dream come true right there, man. It's I was 41 years old when that happened. And as I'd said earlier, about 8 years prior to that, well, not quite 8, about 6 years prior to that, I'd almost kind of given up, and came to the realization that it was probably never going to happen, probably never chance to bowl on tour, probably never going to be a PBA Tour champion. And now fast forward, I've won on every level of the PBA, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Derek mentions that Robert Smith and Norm Duke were the first 2 to ever be exempt. And he wants to know, what is it with guys named Tom being laid off and becoming pro bowlers? I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth there. And Jonathan mentioned that you were one of the only guys who won with the Storm Virtual Gravity.
Yeah, I actually won before that ball was even released.
Huh.
That ball, you know how it works. The ball gets released. There's a release date. Well, the guys on tour get it first, and that week at the Masters was the first week that ball was even available. And it's a pretty good story. I drilled one up earlier on in the week, and it was just too strong. It just didn't work. Didn't need that much ball at the time, and it's funny. Everything comes back to Lenny, man. My first match up in my first title was against Lenny up in Dale's Weston Lanes. The first match of the Masters, I bowled Lenny. I think Lenny, if I remember right, Lenny had a key 4-9 late in the match that allowed me to win. It was a really close match. It was 640 to 630. That year, Walter was the defending champion, and Walter didn't make the top 64. Oh, wow. So that was the first year that they had that the defending champion was able to bowl. And then if you didn't make it, you got the 64th seed. And so Walter was a 64 seed. He bowls Bill O'Neill, who was the number 1 seed, right next to Lenny and I. And I watched Walter Ray just absolutely demolish him up the gutter. I'm playing where I like to play, over in the track, a little left of the track. And so I talked to Chris Schlemmer, was my ball rep back then. And I said, hey, I'm going to go out to the gutter and I'm going to go see what I can do to try to get Walter. My plan, they say there's no defense in bowling. Well, my plan was to try to get Walter off the gutter. So I took this super strong nano and went over to the gutter, and I said, I'm going to see what I can do to the gutter to, make him a little less playable. And then I'm going to go in and do what I like to do. Well, through the 10 minutes of practice, I'm striking like gangbusters out there. And I told Slim, I said, I got to throw this ball. And I ended up bowling 777 at Walter for that match.
Wow.
Throwing a ball that I pretty much hadn't thrown all week. After that was done, I told Slim, I said, hey, I like the way this ball's going through the pins. Can we go drill another one with a little different layout to maybe get over where I'm a little bit more comfortable? So I've got both options, and I guess the rest is history. I drilled the other one. I threw it. I went on quite a run. I bowled 777 at Walter, 750 at Patrick Allen, 764 at Tommy Jones. So I mean, I went through Hall of Fame row to get there. You know, Lenny's in the USBC Hall of Fame. Then be Walter, who's, you know, the greatest winner our sport's ever seen. Tommy Jones, Patrick Allen, all in the Hall of Fame. Then Chris Warren, who, in my opinion, might be one of the most, you know, along with Ryan Schaefer and Eugene McCune. Those guys, those three guys right there are three of the most underrated players the sport's ever seen. Those guys are so good. And then, you know, I lose to Jack to be the #1 seed, and then beat Ncaa and then beat Jack on the show. So,
yeah,
quite a week.
You talk about those guys who have, you know, we've seen on the national tour, but really have done a lot of their damage at the regional level. You've got all this time built up in the Midwest region. You've won Player of the Year in Midwest region, Rookie of the Year. How do you think the Midwest region field and tournaments compare to the other PBA regions?
Oh, you know, I mean, back in the heyday, back when I joined, it's right at the top. I mean, all the regions are tough. I mean, there's good bowlers all over the country. But back when I was bowling, man, you were bowling Dale Traber, Dave Traber, Jeff Richgels, Lenny Borish, Steve Jaros, Eugene McCune. My goodness, there's so many that, I mean, Jeff Carter was out back then. There's just so many great players. You know, I mean, Sean Swanson bowled a lot back then. God rest his soul. There was just it was, if it wasn't at the top, it was, you know, I mean, there's 1 and 1A, of course, and now, you know, you got the Southwest. I mean, look at all the guys from the Southwest that are out there. You know, the East. It's hard to say which one has the best region. You know, it really is. But I would, you know, back then, if you take the RPI results, I would say the Midwest could pretty much hold their own with anybody.
Yeah. I want to talk, you know, about this whole concept of Teddy or Grizzly. You know, I had the chance to, you know, do some message exchanges about that. So, you know, Thomas Larson tells me that he knows you fairly well. He's traveled with you a few times and roomed with you. He says, Tom is definitely a gentle giant and absolutely one of the nicest guy on tour the last many years. He does have a temper too, though, but I think anyone who bowls for a living has that. You know, Riggs says Tommy is as fierce a competitor as you will find on the lanes and as nice a guy as you will find off the lanes outside of bowling Grizzly Bear and Teddy Bear, which is where the whole title came from. You know as well as I do that when you are in competition, you've got to be a killer. You've got to have a killer mentality. But to be one of the nicest guys off the lanes, is it easy to turn that off and on, or is that something that you find to be a challenge?
You know, it takes about 20 minutes, let's say. That's, you know, when you go out and you have a really good block, yeah, it's easy, you know, to turn it off. But when you have a bad block and you're not in the greatest of moods, and then, you know, especially out on tour, you know, and on the senior tour, there's places where we have tons of fans. I mean, like the villages, you can't even hardly move at the villages. There's so many people there. So is it hard? I mean, it is hard to let it go when you have a bad block. You know, for example, my last, it's something that I'm, you know, it still bugs me, and it happened a couple weeks ago. My last block on the senior tour this year was my worst block. And I was done. I was mad. I didn't even want to be. And Parker Bone, I mean, hell, I left without saying goodbye to anybody. I got done bowling. We're done. There's not another stop. And I was so mad that I packed up my stuff. I walked in, got my check from John, got my car, and left. Didn't even say goodbye to Parker Bone, who's my best friend out there on tour. And that's something that, you know, it bugs me. And had I taken the time, you know, to calm down, everything would have been fine. You know, I went and said goodbye to everybody and all that. But and that still bugs me that, you know, that I get that bad, that I let something like that happen. But that's what makes me me. You know what I mean? It is what it is. It's the drive and the desire that makes me. It's got me what I've gotten. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not everybody on this planet's built the same, and you know, my drive and desire are fueled. I mean, look at my idols. You know, Mark Roth and Pete Weber. Pete, you know, my anger sometimes on the lanes is a good thing. I can bowl pretty good mad.
Yeah.
I can't bowl pretty good frustrated mad, but when some things, you know, get adverse and, you know, you kind of get out of your way and you get mad and you get focused, that leads to some really good things. You know, everybody, you know, the thing that everybody loves to make fun of me because I smack myself upside the head. You know what I mean? Yeah, I do. I don't know how I do more than smack myself. I punch myself when I throw a bad shot. Reason I do that, I kicked the ball return one time. The proprietor came up and said, "Hey, ball return, throw a bad shot."
Yeah.
I said, "No." He said, "Yeah, you did. Why don't you smack yourself?" I said, "Hey, that's a great idea." Well, you know, so I don't do that not nearly as much anymore. I think I don't even know if I did it once or twice on tour this year, but when I do it, my strike percentage on the next shot, I'm gonna say, is about 95%. Just gets me fired up, gets me focused. You know, a little bit of that anger gets a guy focused to go out there and get his job done.
Yeah.
But as far as being nice off the lanes, I mean, that's the easy part, man. I'm a nice guy. I'd give the shirt off of my back to anybody to help them out. I go pick up people at the airport. I drive, you know, when people need rides. I love bowling the pro-ams. I love meeting the people, you know, hanging out with the kids. The kids are our future generation. And, you know, without the pro-ams, you know, a lot of the events we bowl don't exist because that's basically the only way for the proprietors to recoup their investment. And, you know, as I know, I've hosted some events before, you know, help host. I don't own a center or anything, but I've been the one to help drive the money and do all that. I mean, hosting an event's a lot of work. So you got to give back to the proprietors that want to give to you and support their fans and show up and bowl for them and have a good time.
Yeah, that's really cool of you to say, and I'm sure the people who participate in those pro-ams really appreciate it as well. You know, Derek mentions what you guys go through is nuts. Cannot imagine what you go through in and week out. Always proud of you. Yeah, that's you know, especially with your situation where it's working and bowling and driving and working. You know, rinse, repeat. I guess, did you feel that kind of wearing on you really, really quick, or did it take a while?
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, what's funny is, so this year, like I said, last September, I became a bowler. That's all I do. And this year was one of the hardest years for me, even though bowling was all I did, because I decided to give both tours a shot. So, I mean, it started right from the first week of January, man. Got on a plane, flew out to Las Vegas to bowl the RPI. Got home the next weekend. I was up in Milwaukee bowling the players, then a short break, and then boom, right on tour. You know what I mean? And then after bowling the kids tour, come home, you get a 2-week break, and then, you know, I'm making the 24-hour drive down to Florida to be gone for 5 weeks to bowl to start the senior tour. So this year was, I mean, it was a good season. It was a lot of fun, but this was the hardest travel season that I've ever had. Because like I said, in years past, it was never, I very rarely was gone for a month. You know what I mean? Because I always had to get home, had to come home and do some work, had to come home and do some work. So I was never able to just go and stay, you know. I mean, it years ago, it had to be where I might have to miss an event to come home to work. You know, this year I didn't have to, I did miss one event because of an injury at the end of the year that I was too stubborn and stupid to go see a doctor. So I bowled an event through some pain and made it worse to make it have to come home and go see a doctor and miss an event before I went back and bowled the last event healthy.
Okay. Let's, you know, I can't talk about this year without kind of resetting last year, because 2021, as I kind of alluded to in the introduction to this whole thing, was your rookie season that really wasn't supposed to be your rookie season. You were eligible in 20, but COVID delayed your start on the PBA 50. Did you feel like you had kind of a chip on your shoulder, or were making up for lost time?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to come in with I'm not going to say I came in with a chip on my shoulder. The one thing I'm going to say is I was looking forward to just being able to go bowl. And what I mean by that is the lane transitions and the patterns we bowl on the senior tour aren't near what you bowl on the regular tour. They're not super easy by any means, but they're a little bit softer. They're playable. And for the most part, your moves are way more in what I'm going to call the normal range. Out on tour, your moves they're just silly from what the rev rate and the surface that those guys use, what it does to the lanes. So that's what I was most looking forward to. Went in, with I didn't have very many goals set. Of course, I thought I could win out there. But when you're joining a class of Chris Barnes, Jason Couch, Brad Angelo, you just don't see a player of the year. You know what I mean? Yeah. 2 Hall of Famers and a guy who was the player of the year on the he won the points in 2003 or 4, I think it was. Brad did. So he was a PBA player of the year, and you don't think that's going to happen. And going through the year, it was going to be a successful year. I believe going into the last 2 events, I want to say I was 4th or 5th on the points list going into the last 2 events, which I'm okay with that. For a guy who's never really bowled on tour, that was okay. And man, what a couple weeks, huh?
I'll say.
To get that done, and I mean, for the fans, it had to be fun too. If you think about it, Parker kind of ran away and hid this year. Chris won the last 2 events to kind of get back close. He was 2,000 points, I think, still behind Parker. But last year, it all came down to the final game, and we had to go to an overtime game because the senior masters not being on live national TV is a true double elimination. So I had to beat Chris 2 games to win the senior masters, which inevitably got me the player of the year and the rookie of the year. So pretty exciting.
Wow. Yeah, to go into a match like that, for a title, just a traditional match is tough enough, but to know that you got to win twice, I mean, what goes on up here?
Oh, heck, did you see what I had to do to get to him?
No,
I mean, I bowled Don Hogue, who has become a very good friend of mine out on tour. Donnie actually owns the pro shop where we bowled the TOC, in Akron. And, he was making his first show. So, I mean, I might have caught a break there where he was dealing with a little bit of nerves. I'm dealing with a little bit of nerves. I beat Don, 230 to 2-0, I think it was. And then, here's where the fun starts. Now I got to bowl Pete Weber. He's one of my idols. We're bowling for the Masters. That was really that match. I had some nerves. That was my low game of the day. Part of it was nerves. Part of it was the lanes were starting to transition. At the end of that game, I made a ball change to where I was throwing 2 different balls. I was throwing an X2 on the right lane and a Zen Master on the left. And, in a way, I kind of got lucky that Pete never really got lined up. I beat Pete 2-0 to 180, I think it was. He never threw a double and had a late split. And then, hey, it gets way easier. You get to bowl Doug Kent. Oh. Doug hasn't done much throwing a bowling ball. This will be an easy. You can just get past him. Then I bowled 260 at Doug, and then hey, now we're waiting to get Chris, and hey, if you beat him, you got to beat him again, and I guess everything just lined up for me. And man, I've done a couple of shows, and I've actually done a show with Mike Shady where they do the Mental Mondays for backstage bowling, and I don't know how, I don't know why. I wish I could get it every time, but that day, the only thing that, and kind of like when I won the Masters, man, the only thing I told myself was post it and let it go. Post it and let it go. Get to the line, post it, let it go, and it's going to be a pretty good shot. And but that day, that's I had taken Parker to the airport Saturday night. He was eliminated, so he was flying back home, and we were talking on the way to the airport, and he just said, I was relaying a little frustrations because that Saturday I missed in my matches on Saturday. I missed 4 10-pins throughout the matches, not in one match, but throughout the day. And that's more single pins than I'd missed all year on tour. And so I was relaying some frustrations to him and all that. And he just said, when you stay down, every shot's been really good. So that's all I could think about was, man, just stay down at the foul line, just stay down at the foul line. And not one time, until the end, the 9th, 10th frame there, when I finally won it, did the realization of everything that had just happened pop into my mind. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, for sure. You also in 2021, competed internationally. You've, you were on Senior Team USA, and this is a picture that that Aaron Smith sent over. Tell us about what happened there at Dubai.
Well, we kind of put the topping on the old cake there. With winning the gold medal in singles. It was a week that I truly will never forget. I got lucky enough to bowl doubles with Chris, which also meant we were bowling singles together. So I got to bowl with Chris pretty much all week, and he helped keep me calm. Chris is a veteran of that stuff. I couldn't tell you how many medals Chris has, but it's probably might be more bowling balls than I have in my garage. Might be medals that he has in international competition. But he was able to keep me calm, and and I got it done. Unfortunately, that was the only gold medal for Team USA that week. The format kind of got us a little bit, but it is what it is. We knew what we were bowling when we went. But man, what a week! I'll never forget taking the lanes with Bob and Parker and Chris over in Dubai, and the 12 days that we were over there, and the memories that we get to share with Tish and Sharon and Debbie and Tracy. Coach Padilla, what an unbelievable experience with everybody I got to meet over there.
Yeah. Last week I had Sean Walkner on the show, and of course I try to always promote the next one. So I asked him about you and if you guys ever crossed paths, and here's what he said.
He is absolutely amazing to talk to, have conversations with. And again, there's a lot of stories that are always told about Tom and his competitiveness. I really started talking to Tom when his daughter started bowling for St. Ambrose. And we've carried some conversations in bowling centers, kind of at collegiate events in between squads, or again, like I run a couple of tournaments that St. Ambrose is bowled in. So again, love talking to Tom. Tom is phenomenal.
I'm glad he brought up Megan, because this is a good chance for you to kind of brag on her a little bit. I saw that you posted on social earlier today that she had a pretty neat experience out in the Los Angeles area. But what should we know about Megan as a bowler?
Well, she's been working pretty hard. Last year, she was first team All-American at St. Ambrose. I don't know. I'm torn, Pfeff. I kind of want her to try the tour. I kind of don't. She's this year. She's taking a gap year and studying for the LSAT and going to apply to law school. So if you can be a lawyer, you know what I mean. She wants to be a lawyer. That's what she's always wanted to be. So I'm going to push her to pursue her dreams for that. But No, I kind of wish. I mean, like I said, she bowled this week at the 11th frame. She bowls. She still bowls all the Greater Iowas and stuff. She's going to bowl a Fusion coming up, and heck, she beat me Friday night in the sweeper and got a pretty good spot. You know, pretty nice cash spot. And then she just missed. She finished 51st. You know, and they unfortunately only advanced 48, but cash 52. So, but what I shared on Facebook was actually, you know, thanks to Sean Rash. Um, Megan and Sue were bowling the Nationals at the same time Sean was out there, and Mookie announced his charity event, and Sean needed a girl to go bowl. So he was watching Megan bowl Nationals, and this year was Megan's first Nationals. She bowled 1905, which isn't going to win you an eagle, but boy, for your first time out there, that's nothing to shake your head about. And
I would take
she
that.
said, man, she might be the best bowler in the family. Can I take her to LA with me? And so, you know, she got to go to. I'm kind of jealous that she got to go to LA. Not that she bowled with Sean and AJ, because I bowl with those guys, but she got to go to LA. She bowled Mookie's charity event with Sean Rash, AJ Johnson, and country star Jimmy Allen. And I love country music, and that would have been really cool. And, you know, she got to hang out with all the celebrities at the celebrity event. And Jimmy got him tickets to the All-Star game, so she got to enjoy the All-Star game. And, you know, just a really good time. And, you know, I'm super proud of her.
Yeah.
She works hard, and you know, yeah, she went to St. Ambrose, like Sean said, and she's put her 4 years in there, and bowled her way all the way up to being a first team All-American this year. You know, with the help from the kids there and the coaches and everybody at St. Ambrose.
Yeah, which is fantastic. But you saw how she ended her post about this whole LA thing. She said something to the effect of, "I will forever be Tom's daughter." I mean,
I don't think that's going to be the case. If you ask my close friends, they already say she's the better bowler. So, you know.
Yeah. No,
and I'm looking forward to the one regret that I really have, you know, since she's put in all the time. We were actually going to bowl the Lucy doubles together this year, but with everything going on in the world and the way the airlines are canceling flights left and right, I would have had to leave from Hammond, Indiana, fly down to Houston, and then fly back up to Michigan. And two guys did it. I mean, Chris left the PBA Tour. Chris went down and bowled, and Dino went down and bowled. But Dino didn't come back and bowl the first event. Dino didn't bowl in Grand Rapids. But Chris made it. He flew down, so I probably could have done it. But I just talked to her and I said, "Sweetheart, I'd love to bowl with you, but I really need to focus on this tour." And I would have had to skip a regional, which I ended up not bowling because I got hurt in Hammond. So, I mean, maybe it all turned out because I would have went to Houston hurt, and who knows, maybe sitting on a plane for all that and doing all that, it would have been worse. But no, I'm gonna get to bowl some with her. You know, I'm 50, obviously, so there's over under 50s and stuff, and I'm sure some of these events will be with her. So, and you know, there's a proprietor in Marengo, Illinois, wanting to hold. Gene and Sandy have hosted some regionals before, and they really want to support the women's tour as well. So I'm trying to work with them. Hopefully we can get it done to maybe have a mixed doubles regional with them next year. So cool. that would be kind of cool to bowl with her in that.
Yeah. And they hold the Lucy every year, right?
Right. Yeah.
Is that? Yeah.
Sooner or later, she's going to want to bowl with other people than bowl with me. Better hurry up and get that done, huh, Fef?
Right. No, so I mean, I've heard you say in other interviews that, you know, maybe the kids tour, as you call it, is not something that you know, that you go forward with, but the PBA 50 tour is the tour that is kind of your focus. How long do you think you keep doing it?
Well, I'm not going to bowl full time this year on the regular tour. I'll bowl the Masters as long as I can walk and feel that I have any chance of getting in the top 64. Obviously, I'm not going to go to the Masters to finish last, but as long as I feel that, you know, if I have a good week, I can get in the cash. And then once you get in the cash, I mean, you never know. 59-year-old Norm Duke just made the show. So, but I'll bowl that. I'll always bowl the Tournament of Champions as long as the format allows me to enter. Under the way it is now, any champion can enter. So I'll bowl the Tournament of Champions. I'll probably bowl the U.S. Open again next year, as I qualified high enough on the points list to get the invite for that. The other events on the kids tour will just be, have to be feasible, see if I can make it or not. But the senior tour, as long as I'm healthy and kicking, I'm going to go. I'm not going to shy away from it. My goal is to get PBA Hall of Fame eligible on the senior tour, and I think I can make that happen. Not that it's easy, you know what I mean? You're bowling Hall of Famers every week, and this tour just keeps getting better and better and better as guys like Dino Castillo and Chris Barnes and Jason Couch, Brad Angelo, and I mean, look at what Grandpa Parker did this year. I mean, he absolutely whacked them. So probably got some karma coming for that comment, but oh well.
It's okay.
It's funny. Somebody shared a meme. Parker Bones kids, four junior gold titles. Parker Bones 0 junior gold titles.
Yeah,
that made me laugh. That was awesome.
But yeah, if anybody's going to take something like that in stride, it's going to be Parker Bones. Derek wants to know, well, first of all, he says he's got a couple questions here. He wants to know, Rocky, I should say, wants to know, are you participating in the Peterson again this year?
I do not like that event at all. No, I'm not. I'm not going to bowl in that. I bowled in it last year. I don't know. I mean, why we just talked about, what happens to me. I get grumpy when I don't bowl good. Why would I want to go bowl a tournament where the goal is the tournament is to make you not bowl good?
Right.
Yeah. So no, I will respectfully decline.
Derek said he would love the shirt off your back, but it's a Storm shirt. He's a Brunswick guy. We got that.
That's not my fault.
He wants to know, what do you do to take your mind off of bowling? And are you going to any country concerts this year?
We've already been to, well, no, that was last year. In 2021, I went to see Jason Aldean, Sean and I, when we were out bowling the doubles tournament. Jason Aldean happened to be playing out there. We went. Well, I don't know if I'll be going to any concerts or not. I'm a big Kenny Chesney fan, Jason Aldean, Jimmy Allen, Morgan Wallen, that kind of country, Florida, Georgia line. So, I travel so much. My main focus this year when I've been home is to spend time at home. When I get home, I don't want to go do other things. So, this year it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I've been bowling good. It's been a rewarding year travel wise, but it's also been a long year, man. Not very many days at home. So when I'm home, I just want to spend time with my wife and my puppies and, just hang out.
Yeah, for sure. So you've seen an episode or two of this before. We go off the sheet by asking you to challenge somebody else, and it doesn't have to be the greatest bowler in the world. It can be somebody who's passionate about the sport, has a unique story to tell, and that can take many forms. But Tom Hess, who would you like to challenge to be a future guest on Bowling with the Fef?
Do you only get one?
You could. Hey, you're going off the sheet. I mean, you can go off the sheet with a 3-bagger if you want.
Oh, do I get the endless 10th frame?
This is your deal.
A guy who's become a pretty good friend of mine who does a lot. He's I think Joe's over 70 years old now, but still gives to this sport by running the Greater Iowas. Him and his family, Rosie and his wife Rosie and his daughter Jen and son Greg. They still run the Greater Iowas. They give so much of their time devoting to run. There's somewhere between 10 and 12 events. They just ran Jeff's 11th frame last weekend. Here in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the middle of September, they'll be running the Fusions. So I think Joe Engelkiss would be a great interview for you if you could get Joe. And then, the guy that we've been talking about that I'm going to go hang out with next week. Thomas Larson and I, we've roomed together a few times. We've traveled a little bit. Thomas is a great guy, former, also a Masters champion. We won it 10 years apart. So he's the 2021. I was the 2011. So I think either one of those guys would be a good get for you to have on your show.
All right, great. Well, Joe and Thomas, if you're watching this, you know where to find me. I'm on Facebook, and you can reach me by email at bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com. The one thing that I didn't mention here is this is kind of our season 2 finale. I think this one went a little better than like the Seinfeld, finale, but it's the season 2 finale, and I say that because I kind of base this off of how my league seasons go. And, we have our league meeting this week, and then we start next week. So along with that next week, we'll have our season 3 premiere. And we'll be talking to a gentleman named Trey Hendricks Meyer. He is one of the premier junior bowlers, not only in this area, but certainly all of Wisconsin. He's all of 16 years old. He was the 2022 Junior Bowlers Scholarship Tour Rookie of the Year. He's also won in the Minnesota Junior Bowlers Tour and made match play at Junior Gold. And this one, we are taking on the road. We've done this once before, but we're going to do this show at Wagner's Lanes in Eau Claire.
Oh, cool.
So that'll be Wednesday, August 31st at 6 p.m. Central. So if you're looking for us, that's when you'll find us next Wednesday, live at Wagner's, before I mess up the place and try and spray my way to a 2-0 average or whatever I do in league. But
I've bowled at Wagner's before. They used to have a really big CBA there back when it was 66 lanes. That used to be one of the biggest events, and now I believe they've taken some of the lanes out up there, haven't they?
Yep, about I want to say maybe a little more than 20 years ago, they removed the 40 side, so it's just 26 now.
Holy cow, I'm old. Was that long ago?
It was. I think they called that tournament the Bloody Mary Open, right?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Yep. But Wagner's plenty of history, and they will house graciously, I might add, Bowling with the Fef next Wednesday. But Tom, it has been a pleasure. Safe travels to Denmark and beyond, and continued success to you in those major events, and certainly on the PBA 50 Tour.
Fef, thank you very much for having me. Sorry that it took. We started this about 5 months ago, but sorry it took so long. But I'm glad we could finally get it done.
Me too. And it was definitely worth the wait. I hope everyone else thought so too. But that's going to do it for us. Everybody have a great week. Be just and fear not. We'll see you again next time.